Welcome back to Cinematica. Today we're going to be taking a look at the life and times of Howard Duckson, aka Howard the Duck. Famed for his absolute bomb of a feature film debut, this legendary comical waterfowl has adventured more than one might think. Let's get started with this timeline. Early life. Hatched on Duckworld, a planet in a parallel universe where sentient beings evolved from waterfowl, Howard the Duck shares striking similarities with Earthlings, including English-speaking ducks. Born to Ronald and Henrietta, a Catholic working-class couple residing in New Stork, Howard had two siblings, Theresa and Orville. During his childhood, he uncovered an extraordinary intellectual potential, yet he faced persistent bullying from other children. Eventually, he made the decision to abandon his studies, squandering his considerable potential. Further details about Howard's past on Duckworld are still unknown. Arrival on Earth. Howard disappeared from his native world due to the power-hungry demon Thog, the Never-Spawn, manipulating magic to shift the interdimensional cosmic axis. As a result, Howard was displaced from his home dimension and found himself in the midst of the Florida Everglades on Earth 616, precisely at the location of this world's nexus of all realities, a point believed to enable travel to various other dimensions. Attempting to restore the cosmic axis and find his way back to his home dimension, Howard, against his will, allied with Korek the Barbarian, another individual from a different dimension. Alongside them were the young Earth-born sorceress Jennifer Kale, Duckson the Enchanter, and the Man-Thing. Howard's involvement in the struggle against Thog concluded when he tumbled off the stepping stones of oblivion from another dimension. Cleveland. Arriving once again on Earth, Howard found himself in Cleveland, Ohio, where he initially encountered the threat posed by Garko the Man-Frog, Bessie the Hell Cow. In a bid to build a reputation in Cleveland, Howard the Duck aimed to secure a spot on the city's police force by apprehending a mysterious farm intruder. While investigating, he encountered Bessie the Hell Cow, who attacked him. Howard managed to fend her off using a push broom and, in the ensuing struggle, utilized a mallet and wooden stake to seemingly put an end to the blood-sucking bovine's infernal existence. Despite his courageous act, Howard was disappointed to find he was still denied a position on the Cleveland police force. Meeting Beverly Switzler. In Cleveland, Howard initially encountered the young life model Beverly Switzler, who was being held captive by the costumed criminal accountant Pro Rata. Howard and Beverly successfully escaped and decided to start living together. While struggling to live a somewhat ordinary life, given his status as a talking duck in a world dominated by humans, Howard consistently encountered a range of peculiar threats. These included Turnip Man, Count Macho, Winky Man, Emil the Goat Clout, and the Gingerbread Man. Howard gained public attention when he ran as a candidate for the presidency of the United States on a relatively minor party ticket. He became the target of an assassination plot, hiring Dr. Angst and his band of the Bland to kill him. With the assistance of the defenders, Howard thwarted his would-be assassins, leading to their imprisonment. The assassination attempt proved unnecessary given that the majority of the public refused to accept Howard as a genuine talking duck, perceiving him instead as a dwarf in a duck suit. Consequently, his candidacy was widely regarded as a joke by the public. He persisted in confronting adversaries like the Bellhop, Le Beaver, Kong Lomerit, Kidney Lady, Rev Jun Moonyuk, and Roxanne. Dr. Bong. His most prominent arch-nemesis was Dr. Bong. Through wit, tenacity, and fortunate circumstances, Howard consistently found a way to overcome or elude his enemies. Sufi. Howard confronted a hate group known as Sufi, who claimed to be trying to restore order to the world. Bzkjo. While unwinding in his apartment, Howard faced an assault from a salt shaker with limbs mounted on a giant housefly. Despite their efforts, they couldn't overcome him. Duckson and Man-Thing appeared, seeking Howard's assistance, and reluctantly he was transported to the land between night and day, reuniting with Korek and Jennifer Kale. Duckson had brought him there to confront Bzkjo. Bzkjo initiated an attack, leading Jennifer to use her powers to summon Nak, P3O, and Tutu, two druid droids aiding Howard, Korek, and Man-Thing in thwarting Jo. Despite Howard's initial reluctance, Korek's threat, and an attempt to use a gun provided by Duckson that humorously shot a flag, Howard finally agreed. Riding Duckson's ship, the Epoch Weasel, through the universe to reach Joe's base, the Imperium Emporium, they narrowly escaped one of the delivery truck weapons. The ships sustained damage, forcing them to land at the Hollywock Cantina, where they encountered real Californians. In their quest for transport, they were directed to speak with Big Mac. Despite Korek's initial attempt at politeness, he resorted to violence when Mac denied them transport, leading to an attack by the real Californians. Howard utilized the farce through his gun to dispel them, rendering them all incapacitated. After securing a new ship, the group infiltrated Zhou's Imperium Emporium, a colossal spaceship resembling a box store. Within, they battled Zhou's army, liberated Jennifer, and narrowly escaped as the Emporium was set to explode, eliminating Zhou and his followers. Upon their return, Howard found himself in New York on Earth 616, but his attempts to assist a few New Yorkers only led to more trouble. Circus of Crime. After successfully reconnecting with the cruise ship that saved Paul and Winda, who had formed a friendship with socialite Iris Raritan, Howard joined her party on Long Island. Unfortunately, during the event, he was kidnapped by the ringmaster and his circus of crime. Paul ended up shot and in a coma, while Winda, abandoned by both Paul and Iris, seemed to have been attacked by a vagrant. Following the triumph over the circus of crime, Howard, haunted by pessimistic dreams, chose to part ways, reminiscent of his initial departure at the start of the series. Howard returned to Cleveland. Showdown with Dr. Bong. He engaged in a clash with Dr. Bong and joined forces with Claude Starkowski, a former Vietnam veteran convinced that he was the mastermind behind the invention of Iron Man's armor. Claude crafted a suit of armor for Howard inspired by Iron Man, featuring springs and an integrated flamethrower, along with a device aimed at neutralizing Bong's powers. Lee and Howard revisited the hospital, where Bong materialized to confront Howard just as they completed their preparations. He utilized his bell to freeze everyone, but it had no effect on Howard, shielded not only by his armor but also by cotton balls stuffed into his ears. The two clashed throughout the hospital, where Howard, despite being significantly overpowered, managed to lead Dr. Bong to the device intended to nullify his powers. Unfortunately, the device malfunctioned and Bong seized Howard. With only one compartment unexplored, Howard opened the hip unit of the armor to discover a small hammer. Recalling the previous incident when Bong was struck on the head with the bell, Howard took the hammer and delivered a blow to Bong's head. The resulting chime from the bell transported both Bong and Howard away, liberating everyone from Bong's paralysis. They materialized in Bong's castle, where Bong used his bell to strip Howard of his armor and remove the cotton balls from his ears. However, before Bong could finish Howard, Beverly intervened, presenting him with cloned babies she had created and threatening to expose him as a neglectful parent to the media. Reluctantly conceding and taking the cloned children, Dr. Bong angrily teleported Howard and Beverly back to the hospital. There, they were reunited with Lee and Winda, who had emerged from her coma. Return to Cleveland. Residing in Cleveland once more, Howard confronted fresh, peculiar foes. Dracula. While returning home from the laundromat, Howard unexpectedly faced an attack from Dracula. Realizing that Howard was not human, Dracula quickly retreated. Strangely, Howard began to exhibit vampire-like tendencies, donning traditional vampire attire and attempting to attack Winda. Misinterpreting his bloodthirst as something else, Bev kicked Howard out of the house. The occasional vampire hunter, Harold H. Harold, sought Howard out, explaining that his condition was merely a delusion. Despite some unsuccessful attempts to attack due to lacking teeth, they eventually found Howard and attempted to snap him out of the delusion. Dracula reappeared and tried to turn Bev, but Howard thwarted him by staking him with a piece of a picket fence. In a misguided pursuit of immortality, Harold removed the stake and Dracula turned him. 3 days later, Howard read reports of Harold clawing his way out of the grave. Return to Duckworld. Howard and Beverly found themselves in Duckworld on Earth 791021. In this alternate reality, Beverly was regarded as the odd one in their pair. Eventually, it was discovered that Howard was the missing Drake who had disappeared a few years earlier. Initially evading over-enthusiastic followers, Howard guided Beverly back to his former home, the Wackies headquarters, where they uncovered the actions of Reverend Godfrey Gander. Howard addressed the crowd, condemning Reverend Godfrey and revealing the true message he had intended for them. Despite initial hesitation, the Duckworldians agreed to start thinking independently, while Gander swore vengeance for losing his following. Howard worked to rally his people alongside Beverly, making an appearance with her on The Tonight Show with Johnny Quackson. In a pastiche reminiscent of This Is Your Life, Howard experienced a reunion with his parents, sister Theresa, now a nun, and brother Orville, now a mortician. However, the next guest, Dr. Ludwig von Kluck, revealed himself as a paid agent of Gander and attempted to use his surrogate sniffer super vacuum machine to expose Beverly as a robot. Instead, it ended up exposing her by tearing off all of her clothes, much to the shock of all the Duckworldians. Howard and Beverly hastily fled alongside fellow guest Truman Capultry. Capultry, a former ally of Gander, chose to follow Howard's guidance and assisted them in escaping. To facilitate their return to Earth, Capultry brought them to Dr. Strange, Mallet of the Mystic Arts, who was living as a drunk in an alley. Before Strange could take any action, Reverend Gander, Scrounge McDrake, and their allies arrived, attempting to attack Howard, Bev, Capultry, and Strange. Bev, however, cleverly kicked a trash can into their assailants, and the group managed to overpower them one by one. Strange cast a spell that transported them back to Earth 616. Seeing this as an opportunity to revive the Wackies, Gander had plans, while Capultry pledged to write a new book that would reveal the true story of Howard, thwarting Gander's intentions. Back on Earth 616. Returning to Earth 616, they reunited with Man-Thing at the nexus of all realities in Florida, joining forces once more to confront Conglomerate. Howard and Beverly found employment at a retirement home in Miami, where they encountered challenges posed by the ambitious schemes of the Grey Panther. The duo found themselves in New Orleans, and Bev was abducted by Black Talon, who planned to use her as a sacrifice in a voodoo ritual. Spider-Man. While working as a taxi driver, Howard transported a passenger from Cleveland to New York. The man, who identified himself as Status Quo, was once a mild-mannered librarian. However, the constant influx of new fads drove him to madness. Determined to eliminate all fads, Status Quo delved into studying how media and advertisers promoted them. He arrived in New York with the intention of converting people to his anti-fad group. This culminated in a massive demonstration in Central Park where, surprisingly, Status Quo garnered a large crowd and amassed followers. Armed with gimmicky fads like rocket-powered skateboards and exploding frisbees, his followers attacked anyone associated with fads. Spider-Man intervened to quell the chaos and prevent it from spreading beyond Central Park. Meanwhile, Howard found himself pursued by anti-fad goons who believed he was perpetuating a fad. Eventually, Spider-Man and Howard teamed up, exposing Status Quo as a hypocritical terrorist in front of live news cameras. This revelation discredited him, leading to the dissolution of his followers. Afterward, Howard and Spider-Man went their separate ways, and Howard returned to his cab, where a police officer was waiting to issue him citations for various traffic violations. Andy the Angel. Howard was in San Francisco on Christmas Eve, where he was on the Golden Gate Bridge, depressed and contemplating suicide. He was stopped by an angel named Andy. Andy tried to boost Howard's confidence and morale. He showed to Howard how the lives of his friends would have unfolded if Howard had never been to Earth 616. He showed Howard Earth 83234. They visited his friends Paul Same, Arthur Winslow, and Beverly Switzler. To Howard and Andy's horror, all of his friends' lives would be better without him. Believing that he had failed and his life was worse than Howard's without his wings, Andy considered suicide himself, but Howard tried to stop him. Howard took Andy for a drink rather than either having to kill themselves. This act ironically won Andy his wings because, after all, it was a successful mission. Leaving Beverly. Following Beverly's request, Howard decided to part ways with her. Subsequently, he was misidentified as Duck Drake, Private Eye, encountered CC Ryder while hitchhiking, and engaged in a confrontation with the Gopher, Alexis the Duck. Subsequently, Howard secured a grand prize of $10 million from the American Garden and Family Contest. However, the newfound wealth and fame altered him, leading to a disconnect with Bev. Dr. Dwight Clive persuaded him to spend the remaining money on crafting a companion. Employing cell samples, he brought Alexis the Duck into existence, unknowingly incorporating a brain from the deceased spouse of a personal injury attorney. Unfortunately, Alexis turned out to be a resentful opportunist who eventually abandoned Howard. Left destitute, he returned to his homeland of Cleveland. Dr. Doom. Experiencing heartburn, the Watcher let out a cosmic burp that inadvertently transported Spider-Ham from Earth 8311 and Howard into an alternate dimension, Earth 905237. They found themselves in the castle of Dr. Doom and joined forces to confront the villain. However, the Watcher took antacids, undoing the effect of the cosmic burp. Before the burp reached them, Howard and Spider-Ham were sent back home, disrupting Doom's plan to use his weapon, a perfect blend of science and magic, to conquer the world. Howard thought he had escaped unscathed, but to his surprise, Dr. Doom materialized in the alley behind him. She-Hulk. She-Hulk inadvertently dragged Howard through a cosmic wormhole, along with physicist Brent Wilcox, to prevent other universes from encroaching upon Earth 616. Howard encountered the Critic, journeyed to the Baloneyverse, and engaged in a conversation with Dr. Angst and his associates. Generation X. In California, Chamber and Skin from Generation X were hitchhiking along a highway. Despite several cars speeding past them, one vehicle eventually stopped to offer the two mutants a ride, and the driver turned out to be none other than Howard the Duck. Howard and the mutants decided to take a break at a bar for some drinks, but the bartender conveyed that they did not serve ducks. This led to a confrontation, and Howard had to utilize his quack fu martial arts skills to avoid harm. Meanwhile, Chamber utilized his mutant powers to interrogate the bar patrons about a person named Torres. Surprisingly, Miguela Torres turned out to be a young woman with a distinctive green stripe tattooed on her right eye. As Torres entered the bar and started asking questions, Chamber and Howard focused on dealing with her. Meanwhile, Skin discreetly slipped away, morphing into an old man to visit the cemetery and his own grave. There, he comforted his mother without revealing his true identity as her son. Arriving in the biosphere, Howard and his girlfriend Beverly found themselves outside. The prospect of befriending a talking duck excited Franklin, Artie, and Leech. Despite Howard's lack of enthusiasm for spending time with children, the kids insisted on bringing him to their treehouse. Inside, they discovered Tana Nile, a Regalian who had recently crash-landed on Earth. Leech had been secretly providing her with food from the school, and her presence remained unknown to everyone except the children. In an attempt to ensure the safety of the children, Howard sought a way to protect them. The treehouse came under attack from Black Tom, who intended to harm them. Howard managed to repel Black Tom by igniting him with the glowing end of his cigar. As the treehouse became engulfed in flames, Howard, Artie, Franklin, Leech, and Tana Nile encountered the Man-Thing on the estate. Realizing that the Man-Thing served as the portal to the dimensional rift known as the Nexus of All Realities, Howard persuaded the others to enter the creature's viscous body in an attempt to escape. Their strategy seemed successful as they vanished into the mass of the Man-Thing. Daydreamers. Howard, along with the Daydreamers, traversed the interdimensional pathways of the Nexus aboard a fragment of Earth. The unfolding events left everyone bewildered, and Howard found himself on the verge of a panic attack. Or panic a quack. Tana helped him regain composure, emphasizing their primary responsibility of caring for the children. Meanwhile, Artie dozed off and projected a nightmarish vision featuring a menacing shadowy figure. The journey led them to Never Never Narnosbia, a surreal fantasy realm where their makeshift sled accidentally landed on the Red Witch of the Southeast, who bore a striking resemblance to the Scarlet Witch. A group of rocky creatures celebrated her demise, only to be interrupted by Strange, a man in drag, who thanked the Daydreamers for saving the realm. Franklin expressed a desire to return home, prompting Strange to guide them to the realm's king using the eyeliner of Agamotto. Separated from the group, Howard stumbled upon a magic lamp, summoning a goblin-like genie who granted him 3 wishes. Howard wished for a way out of their predicament, and the genie provided him with a DeSoto. Rejoining his friends, they inadvertently became prisoners of a king resembling Dr. Doom, an old foe of the Fantastic Four. Attempting to escape, a fight ensued in the throne room where the dark spectral figure from Artie's vision appeared, declaring his arrival for Franklin Richards. The Daydreamers faced an attack from the Dark Hunter, who declared his mission to claim Franklin Richards. The bizarre situation left the group perplexed as they grappled with the presence of the menacing villain, Doctor Strange in drag, and the surprising ability of the Man-Thing to engage in conversation. Despite Leech's attempt to drain the Dark Hunter's powers, it proved futile. Franklin, hoping for a way home, asked Strange for assistance. Unable to return them to Earth, Strange used his magic wand to transport them to a peculiar cartoon-like realm reminiscent of a creation by Dr. Seuss. In this whimsical reality, strange creatures with distended lips and tufts of hair on their heads strolled along streets, all speaking in rhyme. Seeking a moment of respite, the Daydreamers stopped at a local diner. Howard's refusal to rhyme irked the staff, leading to tension. Franklin, aiming to ease the situation, placed their food order in rhyme, but the Cadence police arrived, leading to the Daydreamers' arrest. Despite Howard's inclination to fight, Tana convinced him that going to jail might serve their interests. Artie, however, began to distrust Franklin, sensing a connection between him and the Dark Hunter. Franklin reacted defensively, asserting Artie should mind his own business. Later that night, the Dark Hunter confronted them, prompting Tana to break them free from their prison cell. Despite her efforts, the Dark Hunter proved formidable. Howard attempted to enlist the Man-Thing's help, but the creature explained its inability to control the Nexus's power. Undeterred, the Daydreamers plunged into the Nexus of All Realities within the Man-Thing's slimy substance. Upon emerging, they found themselves on Duckworld, Howard's birthplace, with a bronze statue of Howard in the town square. The sight left them in shock as Howard appeared to be revered as a hero. A throng of people gathers around the newcomers, enthusiastically welcoming their hero home. To manage the excited crowd, Tana Nile seizes the Man-Thing, swinging him like a baseball bat. The Daydreamers discreetly navigate an alleyway, heading towards Howard's residence. Despite the acclaim, Howard remains indifferent to the hero's reception, and the Man-Thing begins losing coherence, requiring Tana's assistance. They reach Howard's parents' house, where June and Ward warmly greet them. The picturesque 2-story home boasts a manicured lawn and a white picket fence. After a brief meal, Howard grows disenchanted, recognizing this idyllic setting as an illusion. Shaking his head in denial dispels the illusion, revealing the truth. Meanwhile, the Man-Thing deteriorates further as tapping into the Nexus of All Realities takes its toll. The Dark Hunter arrives on Duckworld, intensifying his pursuit of Franklin Richards. Departing Howard's illusory household, the Daydreamers proceed to the Richards Institute. Inside, cartoon versions of Franklin's parents, Reed and Susan Richards, await. The Dark Hunter locates them, revealing that he embodies Franklin's repressed emotions. The Daydreamers comprehend that when they interacted with the Nexus of All Realities, it connected with Franklin's dormant mutant powers, creating a conduit into a pocket dimension within his subconscious. Franklin, unable to cope with the loss of his parents to Onslaught, constructed an illusory refuge. Facing the Dark Hunter prompts Franklin to confront his grief and let go of his fabricated world. As his pocket reality dissolves, the Daydreamers exit the nexus of all realities, finding themselves back in the Florida Everglades on Earth, with the Man-Thing reverting to its usual inarticulate self. Back home, as Man-Thing took on the role of Franklin's self-appointed guardian, Howard ventured alone and fell into the clutches of the Cult of Entropy. Though he was previously spotted in the swamp, Howard explained that he'd been tossed into luggage and carried on a plane. The Cult of Entropy sought him out due to the presence of a fragment of the Nexus of All Realities within him, a result of it shattering during Heroes Reborn, causing him discomfort. Man-Thing entered Howard's gullet, and after Howard regurgitated him along with the fragment, the creature was left desiccated and nearly lifeless. He came across Namor, who believed he had killed the creature. However, Howard clarified that he wouldn't be carrying his friend's body if that were true. Placing Man-Thing in the water, the creature revived during the conversation with Namor. Satisfied that Man-Thing was hale and hearty, Howard said his goodbyes to Namor and expressed his intention to return to Cleveland. Ben Reilly. Collaborating with Spider-Man, or Ben Reilly, to combat the circus of crime, Howard and Beverly found themselves trapped in a warehouse filled with anthropomorphic ducks. During this encounter, they briefly crossed paths with the Savage Dragon and Destroyer Duck. The group departed, convinced that they had taken the correct Howard with them. Ghost Rider. Jennifer Kale made several attempts to send Howard back home, but he accused her and Doctor Strange of being the ones who brought him to Earth 616. In an unintended turn of events, she mistakenly teleported Devil Dinosaur and Moon Boy into her New York apartment. The confused dinosaur made an attempt to consume Howard, but promptly spat him out when hit with Ghost Rider's Hellfire gun. Together, they unleashed havoc in the city until Ghost Rider intervened to subdue them. Howard, sharing a sense of being trapped in a world not meant for him, connected with the duo before wandering off. Howard the Mouse. Working for a company owned by Dr. Bong, Beverly secured a job where Howard underwent a transformation into a giant mouse. However, the process proved unstable, causing him to cycle through various forms before eventually settling back into a mouse. Later, Bong collaborated with Kenneth Flogg in an attempt to acquire the Amulet of Pazuzu. However, Howard managed to obtain the amulet first, harnessing its power to defeat Flogg's assistant, Ian Whippingham. Subsequently, they took up residence at the Boarding House of Mystery, teaming up with fellow tenant Splatter Gamora to unveil talk show host Ipra as part of a marketing franchise. Yet she fell under the possession of the demon-angel hybrid Deuteronomy. Howard employed the cigar of the saint of therapists Sigmund Freud to expel Deuteronomy. However, succumbing to temptation, he took a puff of the cigar, resulting in his own disintegration and banishment to hell. God intervened to rescue him, expressing gratitude for Howard's handling of Deuteronomy. In appreciation, God imparted the meaning of life to Howard before returning him to Earth in his original duck form. Howard the Duck tried to sue director George Lucas over a movie, represented by Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway. Civil War. Being an interdimensional non-human entity, Howard the Duck, along with Beverly, found it necessary to comply with the Superhuman Registration Act by registering. He attempted to do so during the Civil War. However, he discovered that his socially disruptive lifestyle had caused numerous bureaucratic complications, leading the government to declare that Howard, the infamous Duckman of Cleveland, did not officially exist. The absence of government oversight brought him joy, as it meant he was exempt from parking tickets, taxes, and jury duty. MoDOT. Following his triumph over MoDOT's plan to manipulate the public via mass media, his attorney, Jennifer Walters, officially registered him with the government, outlining all associated responsibilities. In a notable turn of events, the president granted him citizenship along with a complete presidential pardon. Armor. At a certain juncture, Howard became a member of the Ohio Initiative. However, the team was ultimately disbanded by the federal authorities for reasons undisclosed. Later, he was appointed as an agent of Armor and received a private assignment from Morbius the Living Vampire. The task involved traversing the multiverse, encountering various zombie variations, and collecting a sample from each. Before embarking on his mission, Howard was tasked with locating Machine Man and enlisting him. Within a week of joining, Howard located Machine Man, who was grappling with depression due to his girlfriend Jocasta returning to her former husband, Ultron. Howard successfully persuaded Machine Man to join him on their mission, Fearsome Four. Amid the Fear event itself, Howard assembled a group named the Fearsome Four, comprising of She-Hulk, Frankenstein's monster, and Nighthawk. Their objective was to quell the uncontrollable rage of the Man-Thing, triggered by the overwhelming fear emanating from the Serpent's hammer wielders worldwide. Confronted by heroes from alternate universes and the Psycho Man, who were brought to Earth through the Man-Thing's link to the Nexus of All Realities, Ultimately, the quartet managed to address their individual fears, pacifying the Man-Thing, thus concluding his destructive spree and preserving the world. Afterward, they all went their separate ways. Cynical Duck and Swizzle. Howard and Beverly fell victim to brainwashing, compelling them to serve Soofy as Cynical Duck and Swizzle. J. Jonah Jameson organized a public event to endorse Soofy, where Spider-Man intervened during an indoctrination session at the New York Public Library. Beverly and the other Soofies perceived Spidey as a semi-demonic figure and attacked him. Spider-Man managed to escape with Howard, breaking his brainwashing by leveraging the threat to Beverly. Howard swiftly briefed Spider-Man on Soofy's objectives. In a surprising turn, Spider-Man publicly declares his support for Soofy. During a confrontation with the Supreme Soofy, Howard appealed to Beverly's memories of the past. The leader ordered their disposal into the special Blandatron at Guantanamo Bay, but Beverly held them at bay with her whip. Spider-Man unmasked the Supreme Soofy, and the others fled using their teleporter. Howard speculated that Soofy might lie low after this defeat, and he also harbored hope that their Florida Everglades base could lead them to a reunion with the Man-Thing. Ducky Dozen. Due to his familiarity with worlds overrun by zombies and his role in leading Machine Man, Howard was selected as the head of what he jokingly referred to as the Ducky Dozen. He led a team consisting of Golden Age heroes Dum Dum Dugan and Battlestar, a veteran of a previous zombie incident, into Earth 12591. In this realm, known as the Ducky Dozen, they engaged in fierce combat against swarms of zombie Nazis and Asgardians. Unfortunately, the team suffered significant casualties, with many members either killed or turned into zombies during the intense battle. Following the successful completion of their mission, only Howard, Dugan, Taxi Taylor, and Battlestar remained among the surviving members. They returned to Earth 616 accompanied by the Riveter, the lone survivor from Earth 12591's resistance team, the Suffragists. Dupe. Teaming up with his friend Dupe, Howard faced off against Robo-Barbarians in Dimension ZZZ. Despite having only a broken sword, a rubber chicken with nails, and a gun that fired bees, they successfully repelled the Horde. Original Sin. Following the demise of the Watcher and the revelation of the secrets concealed in his eye, Howard learned about his potential to become the most intelligent being in Duckworld. When faced with a sudden encounter with a squirrel while diving, he was flung into the air and relied on his intellect to calculate a safe landing, deftly finding his way into a dumpster. A living nexus of all realities. Resuming his role as a private eye, Howard operated from the same Brooklyn building as She-Hulk. Among his initial clients was Jonathan Richards, who enlisted Howard's services to retrieve a stolen necklace taken by the Black Cat. Assisted by a new ally named Tara Tam, Howard successfully recovered the necklace. However, on his way to return it to Richards, he unexpectedly found himself abducted by the Collector. Teaming up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, Howard formed an alliance to break free from the villain's collection, and facing off against the Ringmaster, who had been using hypnosis to compel elderly individuals into committing robberies on his behalf. On his third endeavor to retrieve the necklace, now from the Ringmaster, Howard encountered Richards. To Howard's surprise, Richards unveiled his true identity as the Skrull Talos the Untamed. Richards elucidated the genuine nature of the stone in the necklace. It was one of the abundant gems. After Talos made his escape, Howard and Tara enlisted the assistance of Doctor Strange to gain insights into the abundant gems. Despite teaming up with the Human Torch, the heroes couldn't outpace Talos in the race for the last gem. Regrettably, the villain succeeded in acquiring the Abundant Glove. Amidst the ongoing battle, Tara publicly unveiled his shapeshifting abilities to aid in combating the energy constructs crafted by Talos. In a pivotal moment, Howard seized the Abundant Glove from the villain, ultimately securing victory. Eventually, Howard embarked on a journey to return to his home dimension, making his way to Florida in search of the Nexus of all realities to achieve this outcome. Unfortunately, his endeavor to utilize the Compassion Gem of the Abundant Glove, intending to guide him home, resulted in an unexpected merging with the Nexus. The amalgamation transformed Howard into a living Nexus, endowing him with the ability to teleport to various destinations at will, as opposed to the usual random teleportation associated with the Nexus. Howard's newfound powers attracted the interest of several individuals seeking to exploit him for their own gains. This included gender-altered clones of Howard and Rocket Raccoon named Linda and Shocket, who aimed to liberate everyone confined in Collection and flee to another universe. Consenting to assist Linda and Shocket, Howard, along with his new allies, found himself pursued by both Skrulls and the Stranger on their journey to Collection. It appeared that Howard was saved from the Stranger's grasp by Scout, a cosmic-powered girl aiming to present Howard as a gift to Galaxus and demonstrate her worthiness to be his new herald. With the assistance of Silver Surfer and the Guardians of the Galaxy, Howard's companions successfully rescued him. Harnessing a portion of the power cosmic bestowed upon him by Silver Surfer, Howard transported his allies to Collection. There he played a pivotal role in vanquishing the Collector and liberating the captives. These prisoners utilized Howard's powers as the living Nexus to reunite with their respective homes. However, when Howard was separated from the Nexus and employed it to return home, he found himself inadvertently at the doorstep of Bev's new residence. After a short and bittersweet reunion, Howard went back to New York. Battle against the Sparkitects. While working on a case for actress Leah Thompson, Howard uncovered that the notorious Mojo from Mojoverse had transformed him into the unknowing star of his own reality show. To spice up Howard's life for better ratings, Mojo enlisted the help of Chip and Joe, two members of the reality warping Sparkitects. These beings subtly influenced Howard's life and orchestrated many of his recent misadventures. The Sparkitects found themselves directly engaged in Howard's clash with Mojo when they realized that the antagonist might uncover Howard's discovery of the reality show as an effort on their part to terminate Mojo's program and sever connections with him. In the confrontation with Chip, one of the Sparkitects fatally stabbed him. Nevertheless, Joe's efforts to make amends resulted in the resurrection of Howard, as he manipulated Doctor Strange into restoring his soul to his body. Having been brought back to life, Howard successfully overcame Chip, leading to Chip's subsequent arrest by superiors for manipulating reality for personal gain. In compensation for the damages caused by Chip and Joe, Axel, the leader of the Sparkitects, granted Howard a single wish. Howard, in turn, wished for the assurance that Beverly would graduate from veterinary school and successfully establish her own business. And that, my friends, is the timeline of Howard the Duck, aka Howard Duckson. What do you think? What's your favorite of his adventures? Least favorite? How about all those sidekicks? Make sure you let us know what you're thinking down in the comments, and make sure you subscribe for more like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.